CLC Chapter 3, Geography of Roman Italy and the Empire. A quick lecture to accompany the graphs below. Students will need to recreate the pictures found there of the maps of Italy and the Roman Empire for their grammar and culture notebook. Starting off with Italy, Italy is shaped like a boot, with this island to the south called Sicily as its first province. In looking at Italy, you have to realize that position 4 in the center part of the peninsula is Rome. The Tiber River runs from the mountains here sluggishly down through Rome, opening up 14 miles to the east at Ostia. That's the port of Rome. To the north of the Italian peninsula are the Alps Mountains, or Alpines in Latin. The Alps, almost an impenetrable barrier except for several major passes. This kept Italy somewhat safe from barbarian invasions from the north. Stretching through or down the spine of Italy is this mountains called the Apennine Mountains. And these created a very hostile barrier for seaflow here on the west, so there were no real ports, except for down here, the port of Brundisium. Then, of course, you have halfway between Rome and the tip of Italy, you have Pompeii, where the stories that we're covering are featured. Running from Rome to Brundisium is, of course, the superhighway, the Via or Via Appia, which was designed to create rapid commerce and movement of military forces from Rome down to its major seaport. In looking at the rest of the map, we see here a cutout of the Roman Empire. The Mediterranean Sea simply means middle terranean of the land. The Romans called it Mare Nostrum, which means our sea. That's our sea over there, the Mare Nostrum. So in looking at the map and we're going to go clockwise for you to recreate, you have the peninsula of Italy, followed by this little province down here called Sicily. We have the Mare Nostrum we talked about, the RC that encompasses all of this area right here. We have the province of Graecia, or Greece, which, as you can see, is pretty large. Then we, of course, have to the east Asia Minor, or Little East. Here is Syria, also known as the province of Judea and Jerusalem. Judea, with Jerusalem being the major city, it became Palestinia after a while. Aegyptia, or Aegyptus, right down here, you see Alexandria, and of course the Nile River flowing from south to north. Very unusual, but that's how it works. Here you have Africa. Now, Africa is merely Africa province, which is North Africa. You have, as you remember from so many classes, the Sahara, which is right down a larger desert area right to the south, which extends several hundred miles. So we have Africa, which of course is where Carthage used to be, and then Carthage, you'll remember, was the home of Hannibal, who took his elephants across the Alps. Then to the north we have Spain, or Hispania, divided into two provinces, nearer Spain and farther Spain. But for this stage, you can just worry about Hispania. Of course, in looking at the wider view, so we were in Spain. Now we go to Gallia or Gaul. Gallia is modern-day France, an area conquered by Julius Caesar in just a few short years. To the north here, we see Britannia or Britain, which was conquered by Julius Caesar. Actually, it was invaded by Julius Caesar in 2 consecutive years, but didn't get conquered until the Emperor Claudius nearly 100 years later. And then, of course, they did not conquer the entire island, just the southern part. They put a boundary to the north a few hundred years later of being tired of trying to conquer Britain across the cape right here between Scotland and Britain, and that was Hadrian's Wall, named after the Emperor Hadrian. Across the Rhine River is the very unfriendly area of Germania. These were where the German tribesmen lived in their small, isolated groupings. They are very fierce, very dangerous, and every time Rome attempted to cross over, we always had lots of death and destruction on the part of the Romans. So therefore, Germania, uninhabited all this time, and one of the causes eventually, about 400 years after our stories, of the downfall of the Western Roman Empire. Sicily, Rome's first province, is the largest island where these are all seas, and we're dealing with the Mediterranean. So you would cross from Rome to Brundisium. What mountain chain, in other words, is on the Italian peninsula? And that would be the Apennines. This is almost self-explanatory, being Britain, the northernmost province. Well, that was the grammar lecture. You are to create 2 different documents, one of the Italy map and the other one of the Roman Empire map for the interim exam lab book. So the notes below should give you a rough outline, and I just went through that there. So happy drawing and happy coloring.